Everyone let this alien family to die, except the humans. The station was called Vila Junction, but most travelers just called it Vila, the same way people shortened long names when they wanted to pretend something was familiar. Familiar was comforting. And Vila Junction was not comforting at all. It hung in space like a metal city that forgot how to sleep. Light strips glowed along its ribs, docking rings spun slow and steady, and advertisement panels flashed in 100 languages. Ships slid in and out like beads on invisible strings. Money moved faster than ships. Information moved faster than money, and compassion, if it existed here, moved slowest of all. On the outer edge of Dock 9, a small transport ship drifted slightly off alignment. It was not one of the sleek, polished vessels that arrived with escorts and fanfare. It was old, patched, and tired-looking, like it had been repaired too many times by hands that did not have enough tools. Its hull carried faded symbols that most of the station could not read. Its engines were quiet in a way that did not look peaceful. It looked wrong. Inside that ship, a family waited. They were called the Keth, though called was not quite right. That was the easiest translation the station's software had offered. Their real name for themselves was a sound the station could not shape correctly, like wind trying to speak through glass. There were 4 of them, 2 adults, 2 young. The adults were Luro and Sen, bonded partners. The young were Talai and Rin, their children. Their bodies were slender and layered, with soft, flexible plates that shifted gently when they breathed. Their faces held large, dark eyes that reflected light like deep water. Their hands had 3 long fingers each, delicate but strong enough to hold tools. Their ship had been running on the edge for weeks, moving from route to route, chasing rumors of safe passage, safer markets, kinder stations. They had left their home region after it became too unstable for small families, and they carried everything they owned inside a single cramped vessel. When they reached Vila Junction, they believed they had made it. And then their life support coughed, sputtered, and began to fail. At first, it was a warning tone, then another, then a series of blinking alerts on the ship's damaged console, written in a mix of half-translated code and the Keth's own script. The air recycler did not have enough charge. The heat regulator could not hold temperature. The emergency oxygen canisters were old and leaking. The ship's internal atmosphere began to shift into something their bodies could not handle for long. Luro pressed their forehead against the wall and tried to breathe slowly so the children would copy the rhythm. Sen checked the system again and again, as if staring hard enough could change the numbers. Talai held Rin close and hummed a shaky little tune that sounded like a thin thread stretched tight. Outside, the station's docking control saw the problem and logged it. A red line appeared in the station's rescue queue, non-alliance vessel, no contract coverage. Biochemical profile, unknown. Assistance class, optional, optional. That single word was the station's way of saying not worth the cost. A maintenance drone floated near Dock 9, its sensors scanning the ship. It relayed the readings. Oxygen levels dropping. Temperature instability, power failing. It sent the information to the station network and moved on to the next task because that was what drones did. They followed rules. They did not feel the weight of the word optional. On the nearby walkway, travelers passed the viewing window and barely glanced. Some saw the ship and turned away quickly, like looking too long might invite trouble into their day. Others noticed the alert marker floating on a small holosign near the dock and made small gestures of annoyance. A tall trader from the Vasque Union clicked their tongue and said to their companion, "Not insured." A sleek Avori courier paused, read the status, and lifted their shoulders. "Unknown biology, risk." A cluster of station staff watched from a distance. One of them, a security officer, spoke without emotion. "If they can pay, they can live. That's the agreement." No one asked what a family was supposed to pay with when their ship was dying. No one asked how much time was left. But the station's timer was quietly counting down anyway. In the medical wing, Dr. Mara Kessler was halfway through a shift that felt like it had started yesterday. The station never truly closed. There were always accidents, always exhausted travelers, always someone who thought they could cheat gravity or chemistry and then learned otherwise. Myra moved with the steady speed of someone who had learned not to waste motion. She was human, medium height, dark hair pulled back, a tired face that still held focus like a blade. Her uniform was slightly wrinkled near the sleeves, and her tablet had too many open alerts. A nurse from the station's mixed-species crew spoke to her about a minor chemical burn on a dockworker's arm. Myra gave the instructions, double-checked the dosage, and signed off. Then her tablet chimed again, not the normal chime for routine cases, but the sharp single note that meant something had entered the station's emergency queue. Mara glanced down. The station was alive in a way it had never been before. Dock 9 hummed with activity, but it was different now, not the mechanical, transactional noise of trade and maintenance, but something slower, quieter, human. Every corridor seemed warmer, every light brighter. Even the air felt softer somehow, as if it remembered the small family that had changed it. Inside the Keth ship, Mara moved among the family, checking gauges, monitoring filters, and making sure the stabilizer and generator ran smoothly. Luro and Sen had grown more comfortable, standing straighter, speaking with Mara in short phrases that the translator could manage. The children, Talai and Rin, explored every corner of the vessel with cautious curiosity, their dark eyes reflecting the faint glow of the bubble tent that had become unnecessary, yet remained as a small monument to their first moments of safety. Humans moved around the dock in careful coordination. Supplies arrived on their own, sent quietly by sympathetic crews across the station. Extra food, replacement filters, portable med units, and blankets, all donated without expectation of payment. Each package carried a message. "We saw you, we will help." It was small gestures that mattered most. Nico read stories to the children, his voice gentle and rhythmic, translating words into the soft tones the Keth could understand. Talai and Rin responded with bright sounds, their laughter light but honest. For the first time in weeks, the family felt a sense of home. Myra watched from her station console, the numbers stable. She felt a rare sense of calm. Not complete calm, this was Vila Junction after all, but a quiet satisfaction that came from seeing the impossible happen. 4 alien lives, saved by hands that refused to follow the rules blindly. The comm panel chimed and Mara tapped it. A hologram flickered to life, showing the face of an Alliance representative she had not expected to hear from so soon. "Dr. Kessler," the figure said, voice firm yet measured. "We are aware of your actions at Dock 9. Reports have spread beyond Vila Junction." Some see this as a breach of protocol, others see something else. Mara straightened. "Yes." The representative's eyes were sharp. "We are sending a team to evaluate the family and determine their long-term placement. You will coordinate with them to ensure safe transfer. There will be no repercussions for those involved, provided there is no intentional interference. In short, you and your team will be allowed to continue what you started under Alliance supervision." Myra allowed herself a small smile. "Understood." The holo flickered and went dark, leaving Myra to absorb the quiet gravity of the moment. She had not expected approval, only the bare minimum to allow the family to survive. Yet here it was. Back inside the ship, Sen approached her, plates shifting in a pattern she had come to understand as curiosity mixed with relief. "They agree?" "Yes," Mara said softly. "They want to make sure you stay safe." Luro tilted their head. "We leave." "For now," Mara replied. "But you are safe." The children reacted instantly. Rin clutched Talai's hand and spoke quickly in their language. The translator hummed. "Will they come again?" Mara knelt beside them. "The humans will always come," she said. "If someone is in need and someone can help, someone will stay." Talai's small hand reached up and touched Mara's cheek. It was a simple gesture, but full of meaning. Gratitude, trust, and something deeper, a sense of hope that had been absent for too long. Mara's chest tightened. Outside the ship, the humans continued their work. Eli and Leela ran diagnostics on the generator, ensuring it could carry the family safely through any delay. Jace checked the bubble tent, folding it carefully so it could be redeployed if necessary. Priya organized the supplies that had been sent quietly from across the station. The station drone hovered nearby, silent now, observing rather than announcing. It had learned in its own way that this was no ordinary operation. It was more than maintenance. It was life sustained against odds. A soft chime drew attention to the dock's main entrance. A small group of visitors arrived. They were humans, representatives from other sectors, drawn by the broadcast and the stories of Dock 9. They brought gifts, extra med kits, clean blankets, small devices to help monitor air quality, and messages of encouragement. Some had never met Mara before. Some had never met each other. But they arrived together, united by the simple truth that kindness could ripple across systems faster than fear or indifference. Mara watched the group integrate seamlessly with her team. Humans are adaptable, she thought, and when they choose to care, they carry the weight of it for others. In the corner, Talai and Rin played with a small holographic projector that emitted soft, light patterns onto the walls. The children laughed quietly, drawing attention from passing station crews. Even strangers paused, curious, and some smiled. The Keth parents exchanged glances. Their dark eyes held a mix of disbelief and gratitude. Sen's plates shifted slowly, a gentle rhythm that Mara had learned was equivalent to deep breathing. Luro spoke softly. Your species, humans, they different. Mara tilted her head. Different how? They do not calculate only, they choose to act, Luro said. Even when wrong may come, Mara smiled faintly. Sometimes that is the right thing to do. The Alliance evaluation team arrived as promised. They were careful, professional, yet not cold. Their scans confirmed what Mara already knew. The family was stable, breathing safely, systems functioning normally. They noted the improvised solutions, the creative use of human technology, and the coordinated effort that had kept life alive in a failing environment. The head of the team turned to Mara. Your actions saved this family, they said plainly. Not protocol, not policy. You and your team made the difference. The Alliance recognizes this. Mara allowed herself to relax for the first time in days. She felt the tension in her shoulders ease, though a small part of her knew that stories like this rarely ended quietly. Sen approached Mara and spoke again softly. We will tell others. Mara nodded. I know. The family packed what they could carry. Their ship, though damaged, was now stable enough for travel under Alliance monitoring. They would be moved to a neutral habitat where they could rebuild their lives. As the transfer began, Talai held Mara's hand tightly. Rin leaned against Jace. The parents carried a small bag of essentials. Mara and her team walked with them to the docking corridor, ensuring every step was safe. Other humans at the dock watched silently. No one left, not because they had to, but because leaving felt impossible. The moment was quiet, yet full of weight. Mara glanced back at the ship one last time. The bubble tent, the generator, the stabilizer, all remnants of an effort born not from policy or law, but from choice. The shuttle arrived, ready to take the family to their temporary home. The Keth family entered carefully, eyes wide with wonder and lingering fear. They looked back at the humans who had saved them, a wordless promise shining in their gaze. We remember. Mara knelt and waved. We will see you again, she said softly. Talai spoke a single word, the translator struggling but succeeding. Stay, Mara smiled. We always do. The shuttle doors closed and the hum of the engines filled the dock. Slowly, the ship lifted off, moving toward the observation deck that marked the station's edge. Mara watched it climb, small but alive, carrying the family who had been abandoned by all others. The humans around her whispered among themselves, quietly celebrating what they had witnessed. Not in grand speeches, not in medals or awards, but in the knowledge that choice had been made. Life had been saved. Compassion had been seen. Jace leaned against Mara's shoulder. Do you think they'll tell others? He asked. They already have, Mara replied. Everyone who watched this, they'll remember. Across the station, screens continued to play the live feed until it was replaced by other events. But in the hearts of those who had watched, a different kind of broadcast remained, one that did not fade. Days later, the Alliance released an official report. It was careful in its wording, praising the coordinated efforts of humans without overtly challenging protocols. Still, the story spread through every sector. A small, desperate family, saved not by rules, but by a species that refused to walk away. The Keth family's new habitat was secure, monitored, and comfortable. They would rebuild, they would grow, and they would carry the memory of a species that chose empathy over indifference. Mara returned to Dock 9, where life slowly returned to normal. Supplies were cleared, minor repairs completed, and humans rotated back to their usual tasks. But something had changed. Even in the routine, there was a quiet pride, a soft glow of humanity that lingered in the corridors. Sen approached Mara as she checked the systems one final time. You did not leave, they said. No, Mara said. We stay when it matters. Luro nodded. We will remember your people, humans, they are the ones who stay. Mara felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was not just relief, it was hope. Later, as she watched the stars from the station's observation deck, Mara thought about the ripple effect of small choices. The humans who had arrived at Dock 9, the engineers, medics, cargo workers, even the Helari who had lent their stabilizer, all had acted because someone refused to stand aside. Somewhere in the galaxy, the story traveled further. Other species took note. Some would follow the example, others would argue, but the seed was planted. The Keth family, safe and breathing, carried their own memory of what it meant to be seen, to be helped, to matter. And in every transmission, every whispered tale, every retelling, the message endured. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are the ones who choose to stay when everyone else walks away. And in that choice, Mara realized lay a kind of strength no law or rule could measure, a strength that could shape the future in ways the stars themselves had yet to see. The station continued its endless hum. Life moved forward. Trade continued. Ships came and went. But in one small corner, where a family had almost been lost, a ripple had begun, spreading quietly but relentlessly across the galaxy. Mara leaned against the observation window, watching the shuttle disappear into the black of space. She smiled. Humanity had done what it always did best. It had stayed, non-alliance vessel, Dock 9, assistance class optional, oxygen decline, 4 life signs. Her eyes narrowed. She tapped the line to expand details. The station system offered a summary, no contract, no alliance status. No confirmed biological compatibility. Liability risk high. Recommended action, monitor only. Monitor only meant watch them die politely. Mara stared at the screen for a long moment, as if the words might become less ugly if she stared long enough. A voice inside her head spoke up, quiet but stubborn. That is a family. Those are children. She had worked on stations long enough to know how this went. The station would say it did not have authority. The station would say it did not have resources. The station would say it could not risk contamination. Then when the ship went quiet, the station would tow it to disposal and file a neat report. Myra lifted her gaze and looked around the medical wing. People moved, machines hummed, life went on. She took a breath and made a decision that was not approved by any policy manual. She walked quickly to the comm panel and opened a channel to dock operations. "This is Dr. Mara Kessler, Medical Unit," she said. "I'm seeing an emergency alert for Dock 9. Non-alliance vessel, 4 life signs. What is the current response?" A tired voice answered. "Medical, the vessel is classified optional. No contract coverage. Dock operations will monitor and notify disposal if life signs cease." Myra's jaw tightened. "Are there any active hazards? Radiation leak? Bio-threat confirmed?" A pause. "No confirmed hazards. Unknown biology." "Unknown is not the same as dangerous," Myra said. "It's the same as not bothering to learn." The voice sounded slightly annoyed. "Doctor, protocols exist for a reason." "Protocols exist to keep the station running," Myra replied. "Not to keep people alive. I'm requesting docking access and permission to attempt stabilization." Another pause, longer this time. "Denied. Liability risk." Myra's fingers curled around the edge of her tablet. "Put the supervisor on." "You can file a request through." "Put the supervisor on," Myra repeated, firmer. A soft click. Then a new voice, smoother, more controlled. "Dr. Kessler, this is Supervisor Halden. I understand you're concerned about the Dock 9 vessel." "Yes," Mara said. "They're dying. I can prevent it." Halden's tone stayed calm, the kind of calm that had learned to make bad decisions sound reasonable. "The station cannot take responsibility for unverified life forms. We do not have a compatibility profile. We do not have legal coverage. We do not have time to run full quarantine procedures for a non-priority ship." Myra looked at the clock on her tablet. The oxygen decline graph was already bending down like a falling bird. "You have time to watch them die," Mara said, "so you have time to help." Halden exhaled slowly. "Doctor, you're letting emotions interfere." "Yes," Mara said, and did not apologize for it. "I'm letting the fact that they are alive interfere." There was silence. In that silence, Mara could almost hear the station's heartbeat. "Profit, profit, profit," Halden spoke again. "If you engage without authorization, you may be subject to disciplinary action." Mara's eyes flicked back to the alert line. 4 life signs, 2 were smaller. "Understood," she said, then she ended the call. The nurse who had been standing nearby watched her uncertain. "Doctor, you're not going to let that go, are you?" Myra set her tablet down for a second and rubbed her face. She felt tired all the way down to her bones. She also felt something else, something hotter than fatigue. No, she said. She picked up her tablet and began sending messages, not to supervisors, to humans. She opened a private channel labeled Terran Crew Vila and typed quickly, Dock 9, Non-Alliance Vessel. 4 life signs, life support failure. Station refuses help. I'm going anyway. If you're available, I need hands and supplies, no weapons, just tools, just brains, just people. She sent it. Then another message to a human engineering group that handled maintenance contracts. Emergency support needed. Atmosphere adapters, portable filters, thermal blankets, anything that can patch a failing recycler. Dock 9. She sent it. Then she walked briskly to the supply cabinet and began pulling what she could without triggering too many automated locks. Portable med scanner, basic respiratory masks, sterile wraps, heat pads, emergency nutrient gel, a universal translator patch module that was not perfect but better than nothing. The nurse hesitated, then stepped closer. If we go without authorization. I'm not asking you to risk your job, Myra said, not looking up. The nurse swallowed. I'm asking if you need me. Myra paused and met the nurse's eyes. The nurse was not human. Their species had a smooth blue-gray face and small ridges along the jawline. They looked nervous and determined at the same time. Yes, Myra said softly. I need you, but you don't have to. The nurse nodded once. Then let's not waste time. Mara's comm chimed, a response, then another, then several. Humans were answering. On her tablet, the group channel lit up with messages. On my way, what do you need? I can bring portable power cells. I have insulation rolls from cargo work. I'm at Dock 12, but I can run. Station can complain later. A human dock worker named Jay sent. I've got an old emergency bubble tent. Not pretty, but it holds air. Mara's throat tightened in a way she did not expect. It wasn't sadness. It was relief. She was not alone. They moved fast. Myra and the nurse took a service lift down toward Dock 9. The lift walls were scratched and covered in old warning stickers. The air smelled like metal and cleaning chemicals. Somewhere above them, the station kept singing its bright commercial songs. Down here it was quieter, closer to the bones of the place. When the lift doors opened, the dock corridor stretched long and curved, lined with sealed doors, cargo rails, and emergency vents. Dock 9's section lights were dimmer than the main walkway, as if even the station's electricity didn't want to invest in this corner. They ran. At the junction near Dock 9, they saw the first human arriving, an engineer in a grease-stained jacket carrying a heavy case with both arms. Behind him, 2 more humans came jogging with packs and rolled materials. Then another pair. People from different jobs, different ranks, different corners of the station, pulled together by a message that had only one meaning. Someone needs help. A small security drone floated into view, its red light blinking. Unauthorized gathering detected. Disperse. Mara didn't stop. She held up her tablet and spoke clearly. Medical emergency. Dock 9 vessel is classified optional, the drone replied. No station action required. A human engineer, sweating, shifted the heavy case and said, That's a funny way to spell dying. The drone hovered uncertain, as if its programming did not include a good response to sarcasm. Mara kept going. They reached Dock 9's outer gate and the view window beyond it. The Keth ship sat there, still and small, attached only by a weak magnetic alignment. Its hull lights flickered faintly. Near the docking clamp, an emergency indicator blinked in slow red pulses. Inside, through the ship's front window, a shadow moved. Mara stepped closer and activated her scanner. The device attempted to read through the hull. The results were messy, incomplete, but it caught enough. 4 life signs, weak, 2 very small. Open docking access, Myra said to the console. The console flashed, access denied. Authorization required. Myra exhaled, then turned to the humans behind her. We don't damage station property, she said, but we can use station-approved emergency procedures. Anyone know a legal way to override this? Jace, the dock worker with the emergency bubble tent, stepped forward. He pointed at a small panel near the floor. That's the emergency maintenance port. If there's a life-threatening incident and a medical officer is present, the station's own rules allow temporary sealing and manual docking support. Mara's eyes flicked to the panel. It'll log us, Jace shrugged. Good, let it. Mara nodded once. Do it. Jace knelt, popped the panel, and began connecting cables with quick practiced motions. Another human handed him a small power cell. The console beeped, hesitated, then flashed a different message. Emergency override, temporary. Duration, 20 minutes. Mara didn't waste a second. She tapped the command. The docking collar hissed. A soft vibration ran through the floor. A narrow airlock tube extended from the station gate toward the Keth ship's damaged entry hatch. The station drone blinked faster. This action is logged. Mara stepped toward the airlock. Then log this too, she said quietly. Someone is choosing to care. The nurse moved beside her, holding the med kit close. Behind them, humans prepared supplies, unrolling insulation, checking seals, turning on portable filters. Mara reached the airlock door and pressed the intercom button, hoping the ship's system still had enough power to hear. "This is Dr. Mara Kessler," she said slowly, speaking clearly for any translator to catch. "We are here to help. We will not harm you. Please open your inner hatch if you can." For a moment there was nothing, then faintly a crackling sound. A voice followed, thin and strained but present. The translator module on Mara's collar struggled, then produced broken English. "Help, why?" Mara swallowed. She kept her voice gentle. "Because you're alive, because you're a family, because you shouldn't be alone right now." There was a pause, a soft sound like a child coughing. Another voice, weaker, said something in the Keth language, fast, fearful. Then the first voice returned, trembling. "Station refused." "I know," Mara said. "We didn't." The inner hatch made a small grinding noise like an old door forced to move after years of being closed. The lock disengaged. The door slid open just enough to show a dim interior and a pair of large, dark eyes watching from the shadows. Mara took one step forward, heart steady, hands visible, and crossed into the failing ship. Behind her, the humans began to move in, carrying air, heat, and time. The air inside the Keth ship felt wrong the moment Mara stepped through the hatch. It was thin and sharp, like it did not want to be breathed. Her lungs worked harder, and her skin prickled under her uniform. The med scanner in her hand beeped softly, confused by the strange mix of gases and particles floating around them. Behind her, the humans paused at the threshold, waiting for her signal. Jace held the emergency bubble tent rolled under one arm. Another engineer named Leela carried a box of portable filters that hummed with quiet power. The nurse stayed close, eyes scanning everything at once. Mara lifted her hand and motioned them forward. The inside of the ship was small, narrower than it looked from the outside. The walls curved inward, lined with faded panels and patchwork wiring. Soft lights flickered along the ceiling, struggling to stay on. The floor vibrated gently with the last effort of the failing power core. In the center of the main space, the Keth family huddled together. Luro and Sen stood slightly in front of the children, their bodies angled protectively. Their flexible plates were drawn tight, and their three-fingered hands were raised halfway, not in threat, but in fear. Talai and Rin pressed close to each other, their large, dark eyes fixed on the humans, reflecting every small movement like mirrors of water. Mara stopped a few steps away and lowered herself slowly into a crouch to make herself smaller. "My name is Mara," she said, pointing gently to herself. "I am a doctor. These are my people. We are here to help you breathe and stay warm." The translator patch on her collar clicked and hummed, turning her words into something the Keth could understand. The result was not perfect, but it carried the shape of her meaning. Luro made a soft, trembling sound. Their eyes moved from Mara to the humans behind her, to the open hatch and back again. Sen spoke quietly in their own language, their voice flowing like water over stone. The translator tried to keep up. "Why risk?" Mara felt the weight of that question settle on her chest. "Because you matter," she said. "That is enough." The children shifted. Rin reached out one thin hand and grabbed Talai's arm, holding tight. Talai did not pull away. Jace slowly unrolled the emergency bubble tent, careful not to make sudden movements. The material shimmered in the dim light, thin but strong, designed to hold air where there was none. Leela set the filter box down near the ship's broken air recycler and knelt beside it, already opening panels and connecting wires. The nurse moved closer to Mara and whispered, "Their breathing rate is high, stress and low oxygen." Mara nodded and raised her voice just enough for the Keth to hear. "We are going to bring better air into your home. It may feel strange, but it will help." Luro hesitated, then slowly stepped back, allowing the humans space to work. The bubble tent expanded with a soft whoosh, unfolding like a clear skin over part of the room. Jace and another human, a young woman named Priya, secured its edges against the walls and floor. Leela connected the filters, and the box came to life with a deeper hum. Clean air began to flow. It was not perfect. It was not designed for Keth biology, but it was better than what they had. The med scanner beeped again, this time with a softer tone. The oxygen level curve began to bend upward. Mara let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Talai tilted their head, watching the air shimmer inside the bubble tent. Rin took a small, careful step forward, then stopped, looking back at their parents. Sen placed a hand on Rin's back and gently pushed them forward. Rin crossed into the tent. They froze, eyes wide, chest rising and falling. Then they took another breath, and another. Their plates relaxed just a little. Talai followed, then Luro and Sen. The family stood inside the bubble tent, surrounded by humans who were trying very hard to look calm and normal, like this was just another day's work. But everyone felt it. This was not just a repair job. This was a line being crossed. Mara stepped inside the tent as well and raised her scanner again. The readings were still messy, still uncertain, but they were better. The children's life signs steadied. The parents' stress markers dropped slightly. "It's working," the nurse whispered. Mara nodded. "For now." She turned to Leela. "How long can we keep this running?" Leela wiped her hands on her jacket. "With these power cells, a few hours, maybe more if we rotate them, but their ship's main system is still dying. This is a patch, not a fix." Mara looked around the small space, at the flickering lights, the exposed wires, the thin walls between this family and empty space. "We need something more stable," she said. "We need to bring them into a station-grade life support environment." Jace frowned. "Station won't allow it." "I know," Mara said. "That doesn't change what they need." Sen watched them speak, their eyes following Mara's face closely. The translator clicked as Sen asked, "You stay?" Mara met their gaze. "Yes." The simple word seemed to carry more weight than it should have. Outside the ship, the station drone hovered closer to the open airlock, its red light flashing in a faster rhythm. "Unauthorized medical intervention ongoing," it announced. "Station authority has been notified." Mara ignored it. More humans arrived at the dock entrance, carrying additional supplies. A tall man with gray hair and a calm face introduced himself as Eli, a systems technician. He brought a portable power generator small enough to fit through the airlock but strong enough to run a section of the station's systems. "We can tie this into their ship," he said. "Give them real power, not just batteries." Leela's eyes lit up. "That could stabilize the recycler," Mara nodded. "Do it." Eli and Leela worked side by side, running cables carefully along the walls, connecting the generator to the ship's system. The generator started with a low, steady rumble, and the ship's lights brightened slightly, like tired eyes opening wider. The Keth children watched in silent wonder. Talai pointed at the glowing cables and said something soft and curious. The translator struggled, then offered, "Starvanes." Mara smiled. "That's a good name." Time passed in strange, stretched-out pieces. Every minute felt heavy, full of waiting for something to go wrong, but the air stayed clean, the lights stayed on. The children's breathing grew slower and deeper. Luro and Sen sat on the floor of the tent, their bodies finally relaxing enough to lower themselves. Talai and Rin leaned against them, eyes half closed. Sen looked up at Mara and asked quietly, "You risk trouble." "Yes," Mara said. "Why?" Sen asked again, not in fear this time, but in honest confusion. Mara thought of her home world, of storms and earthquakes and cities that had fallen and been rebuilt. She thought of people who had pulled strangers from wreckage, who had shared food when they barely had enough, who had stayed when leaving would have been easier. "Because we've been where you are," she said. "Not in the same way, but in the feeling, alone, afraid. Hoping someone will care." Sen listened, eyes deep and still. Outside the ship, voices rose. Station security had arrived. 2 officers stood near the dock gate, their uniforms sharp and clean. One of them spoke into a comm unit, eyes fixed on the open airlock. "This is a violation of station protocol," the officer said. "Dr. Kessler, you are ordered to cease unauthorized activity and withdraw." Myra stepped out of the tent and toward the airlock opening. She did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She simply said, "They will die if we leave." The officer's jaw tightened. "That is not our responsibility." Mara looked back at the Keth family, at Rin's small form curled against Sen's side, at Talai's hand resting on Luro's arm. "Then it's mine," she said. The officer hesitated. The second officer shifted uncomfortably. Behind Mara, more humans gathered at the dock entrance. Engineers, medics, cargo workers, pilots on break, people who had seen the messages and come, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. Jace crossed his arms. If you want her to leave, you'll have to move us too. The security officers looked at the growing group, at the cameras that were now quietly turning, at the station's public channels lighting up with live feeds and whispered commentary. One of them spoke softly into their comm. "Supervisor, the situation is complicated." Inside the ship, Sen watched the humans through the open hatch. They leaned toward Luro and spoke in a low voice. "What are they doing?" Luro asked. Sen's plates shifted in a thoughtful pattern. "They are standing." The station drone hovered, uncertain, caught between its rules and the reality in front of it. The generator hummed. The filters whispered. The bubble tent held. Minutes passed. Finally, the security officer lowered their comm unit. "We have been instructed to observe only," they said, the words sounding forced. Mara let out a slow breath. The line had moved. She returned to the tent and knelt near the family again. "You are safe here for now," she said. Rin opened one eye and looked at her. "You stay," the translator offered. Mara smiled gently. "Yes, we stay." Sen placed a hand over their chest and made a soft, emotional sound. Outside, across the station, screens showed the small ship at Dock 9, the humans gathered around it, the clear bubble of air glowing faintly in the dark. Other species watched. Some felt discomfort. Some felt curiosity. Some felt something they had not felt in a long time. The idea that maybe the rules were not the most important thing in the universe. And inside the fragile bubble of borrowed air and borrowed time, a small alien family breathed easier, surrounded by a species that refused to walk away. The station felt different after the broadcast began. At first, it was only a few screens near Dock 9 that showed the live feed. A quiet camera angle focused on the small, damaged ship and the group of humans standing around it. The image spread slowly, passed from channel to channel, from personal screens to public walls, until people across Vila Junction began to notice. They saw the bubble tent glowing softly like a fragile moon. They saw the humans moving in and out of the ship, carrying power cells, filters, blankets, and tools. They saw Dr. Mara Kessler kneeling beside a family that did not look like anyone else on the station. They saw something the station was not built to show. Inside the Keth ship, time moved in careful steps. Every sound mattered. Every breath was counted. Mara sat near the edge of the bubble tent, her back against the curved wall of the ship. She held the scanner loosely in her hand, watching the numbers rise and fall in slow, steady lines. The children slept now, curled close to their parents. Their breathing was quiet, no longer sharp or fast. Luro and Sen stayed awake. They watched the humans work, their eyes following every movement, every soft voice, every careful step. The fear in their bodies had not disappeared, but it had changed. It had become something like wonder mixed with confusion. Sen spoke softly, their voice barely more than air. The translator clicked. "Your people, they do not leave." Mara looked up. "We leave sometimes," she said, "but not when someone still needs us." Sen tilted their head, considering this. "In our space," they said slowly, "help is given to those who can give back, trade, alliance, promise." "And what about children?" Mara asked. Sen's plates shifted in a pattern that the translator did not understand. The meaning still came through in the pause. "Children are the future," Sen said. "But the future is uncertain. Resources are not." Mara nodded. "We've had that debate too. We still do. But some of us decided a long time ago that if we only help when it benefits us, then we lose something we can't replace." "What?" Luro asked. Mara thought for a moment. "Ourselves." Outside the ship, Eli and Leela adjusted the generator, checking the flow of power into the ship's main system. The lights inside the vessel steadied, no longer flickering. The air recycler hummed with a stronger, more confident sound. "It's holding," Leela said. "Better than I expected." Eli smiled faintly. "Let's not say that too loud." Near the dock gate, the group of humans had grown. Some stood quietly, arms crossed, watching. Others sat on crates or leaned against the walls, sharing water, sharing stories, sharing the strange feeling of being part of something bigger than their own shift schedules. Jace scrolled through his personal screen and shook his head. "You guys are trending," he said to no one in particular. "Trending?" Priya asked. "Yeah," Jace said. "Station network, other stations too. The feed got picked up by a relay." Mara looked up sharply. "Other stations?" "Yeah," Jace said. "Looks like half the sector is watching a bunch of humans refuse to follow the rules." Mara closed her eyes for a moment. "That's going to make things complicated." "Too late for simple," Eli said. The station drone hovered closer, its red light now steady instead of flashing. Supervisor Halden requests a formal communication, it announced. Myra stood slowly and stepped out of the bubble tent. A hollow panel flickered to life near the dock wall, showing Halden's face. He looked calm, but there were tight lines around his eyes. "Doctor." Kessler, Halden said, "This situation has escalated beyond this station." "Yes," Mara said, "it has." "You are drawing attention from the Alliance," Halden continued. "They are asking why a non-member species is receiving unauthorized support in a major trade hub." Mara crossed her arms. "Because they're dying," Halden exhaled. "You are putting this station at risk of sanctions." Mara glanced back at the ship, at the soft glow of the bubble tent, at the small shapes inside. "Then maybe the station should decide what kind of risk it wants to be known for," she said. Halden was silent for a moment. Behind Mara, Jace muttered, "She's good at this." Halden spoke again, slower now. "The Alliance is offering a compromise. They will send a quarantine vessel to evaluate the family. If they pass basic biological safety checks, they may be transferred to a neutral care facility." Mara's heart sank. "How long?" "Several hours," Halden said. "Maybe more." Mara shook her head. "They don't have several hours without full support. You've seen the systems. They're stable because we're here." Halden's gaze shifted just slightly. "The Alliance is not comfortable with humans setting a precedent." "Good," Mara said. "Maybe they need to be uncomfortable." The hollow panel flickered and went dark. The drone hovered, then drifted back a few meters as if unsure what to do next. Inside the ship, Sen watched Mara's face as she returned to the tent. "What happens?" Sen asked. Mara sat down beside them. "People far away are arguing about what you are allowed to be," she said carefully. "And what are we allowed to be?" Luro asked. Mara met their eyes. "Alive." The word settled in the small space like something solid. The children stirred. Rin opened their eyes and looked around, blinking slowly. They saw the humans, the glowing tent, the steady lights. They relaxed again and shifted closer to Talai. Talai whispered something soft in their own language. The translator offered, "Are they stars?" Mara smiled. "Not stars," she said, "just people who refuse to stop trying." Time passed. The generator continued to hum. The filters kept working. Humans rotated shifts, some leaving to rest, others arriving to take their place. And across the station, the watching continued. A vast trader stood in a crowded market hall, staring at a screen showing Dock 9. They turned to their companion and said, "They are risking trade access for strangers." Their companion replied, "Why?" The trader did not have an answer. In a quiet office, an Avori diplomat paused their work and watched the feed in silence, their wings folding slowly behind them. In a classroom on a distant station, a teacher stopped a lesson and let the children watch. Back at Dock 9, a new group arrived. They were not human. 3 figures approached, their bodies tall and narrow, covered in smooth silver-gray skin. Their eyes were bright and curious. They wore the markings of the Helari Collective, a species known for strict rules and careful planning. They stopped a few meters from the humans. One of them spoke. "We have been observing your actions." Jace leaned toward Mara and whispered, "This is either really good or really bad." Mara stepped forward. "And," the Helari tilted their head. "Our protocols state that involvement in non-alliance rescue efforts is inefficient." Myra waited. "But," the Helari continued, "your broadcast has caused significant public response within our networks. Many are questioning our protocols." Myra raised an eyebrow. "And how does the collective feel about that?" The Helari's eyes flickered. "We do not enjoy it." Jace snorted softly. The Helari went on. "We have portable environmental stabilizers designed for unknown biological profiles. They are usually reserved for research." "We can provide one." Mara's breath caught. "You would do that?" "Yes," the Helari said, "not because it is efficient, but because it appears to be necessary." A quiet cheer moved through the group of humans. Eli stepped forward. "We can integrate it with our generator." The Helari nodded. "We will assist." Together, human and Helari worked, connecting the new stabilizer to the ship systems. The device was sleek and quiet, its surface glowing with soft light. When it activated, the air inside the bubble tent became even cleaner, even steadier. The scanner in Mara's hand beeped in a new, happy tone. The readings smoothed out. Sen's plates relaxed fully for the first time. "You brought others," Sen said softly. Mara nodded. "You brought them too just by being here." Sen looked confused. "We did nothing." "You survived long enough to be seen," Myra said. "Sometimes that's enough." The station drone drifted closer again, its voice softer this time. "Update logged," it said. "External assistance accepted." Myra almost laughed. The security officers watched from a distance, no longer trying to interfere. The line had moved again. Later, when the children were awake, Talai approached the edge of the tent and looked at the Helari with wide eyes. They spoke a soft, careful sentence. The translator hesitated, then said, "Are you like them?" The Helari knelt slowly to Talai's level. "No," they said, "but today we are standing near them." Talai considered this, then nodded as if that made perfect sense. As the cycle lights of the station dimmed to mark the artificial night, Dock 9 remained bright. Humans and others stood together, talking quietly, sharing food, sharing silence. The Keth family slept in clean air, wrapped in warm blankets, surrounded by a circle of strangers who had become something closer to guardians. Mara sat near the hatch, tired but awake. She knew the bigger fight was still coming. The Alliance would not like this. The station would not forget. There would be meetings, reports, warnings, maybe punishments. But she also knew something else. The galaxy had seen, and once something is seen, it cannot be unseen. Inside the small, patched ship that had almost become a forgotten piece of debris, a family dreamed in safety for the first time in a long while. And across the stars, a quiet question began to spread, carried by light and signal and whispered conversation. If humans would stand for strangers with nothing to offer, what else might they stand for? The answer had not fully formed yet, but it was growing. The artificial night on Vila Junction was never truly dark. The station dimmed its lights, softened the colors of the glowing signs, and lowered the hum of the main corridors, but light still leaked through every window and every screen. Space outside remained a deep, endless black, filled with distant stars that did not care what time it was inside a metal city. At Dock 9, the light stayed brighter than anywhere else. The Keth ship rested in its docking collar, held gently now instead of barely clinging. The Helari stabilizer glowed with a calm, steady pulse. The human generator continued its low, comforting hum. The bubble tent still stood, but it was no longer the only thing keeping the family alive. The ship's systems were stronger, more balanced, closer to something that could last. Myra sat on a crate near the hatch, her boots dangling slightly above the floor. She rubbed her eyes and looked at the soft glow inside the ship. The children were awake again, whispering to each other. Talai was showing Rin how the Helari stabilizer changed color when someone moved close to it. Rin giggled, a light, breathy sound that filled the small space like music. Jace walked over and handed Mara a cup of warm station tea. "You look like you forgot what sleep is," he said. Mara took the cup. "I think I did, thank you." Jace leaned against the wall and watched the family through the hatch. "Never thought I'd see this at Dock 9. "Me neither," Mara said. Across the station, reactions continued to ripple outward. Messages arrived on personal screens. Questions filled public channels. Some were kind, some were angry, some demanded explanations. A human pilot passing through the main concourse stopped and stared at a large screen showing the feed from Dock 9. They whispered to themselves, "That could have been anyone." In a distant control room, Alliance representatives held a long, quiet meeting. Words like precedent, policy, and influence floated through the air, but so did another word, one they were not used to dealing with: public. Back at the dock, the Helari team prepared to leave. Their lead representative approached Mara. "Our stabilizer will continue to function for several cycles without our presence," they said. "After that, it will need recalibration." Mara nodded. "We'll be ready." The Helari studied her for a moment. "Your species is disruptive." Mara smiled faintly. "We get that a lot." The Helari paused, then added, "Sometimes disruption is how systems improve." They turned and walked away, their smooth forms disappearing into the dim corridor. Inside the ship, Sen watched them go. "They helped," Sen said. "Yes," Mara replied. "Will they be punished?" Sen asked quietly. Mara hesitated. "I don't know, sometimes helping has a cost." Sen looked down at their children. "For us, it would have been everything." The station drone hovered nearby, quieter than before, its movements slower. It no longer announced violations. It simply watched. Time passed in a careful balance. Humans rotated in and out, bringing fresh power cells, fresh food, fresh blankets. Some stayed longer than their shifts allowed. Others came back even after they were told they could rest. One young human named Nico sat near the tent and pulled out a small, worn book. He began to read softly, his voice low and calm. The words were in human language, but the tone carried something gentle and steady. Talai and Rin crept closer, sitting near the edge of the tent. They did not understand the words, but they understood the feeling. They leaned against each other and listened. Luro watched, their eyes soft. "What is he doing?" Luro asked. Mara smiled. "He's telling a story." "Why?" Luro asked. "Because sometimes stories make the waiting easier," Mara said. Luro considered this, then nodded slowly. Later, station security returned, but this time they did not come to stop anything. They stood near the entrance, their posture relaxed, watching the small crowd with quiet attention. One of them spoke to Mara. "Supervisor Halden wants to see you, not on a screen, in person." Mara closed her eyes for a moment. "All right." She stood and turned to Jace. "Stay with them," Jace nodded. "Always." Mara walked through the corridor toward the supervisor's office. The station felt different now. People she passed looked at her, then at her badge, then back at her. Some nodded, some smiled, some looked away. Halden's office was clean and simple, filled with soft light and quiet screens. Halden stood near the window, looking out at the curve of the station and the stars beyond. "You've made quite an impact, Doctor," Halden said without turning around. "I didn't mean to," Mara replied. "I just meant to help a family," Halden turned. "Those two things are not always separate." He gestured for her to sit. She did. "The alliance is divided," Halden said. "Some want to make an example of you, others want to make an example of what happened." "And what do you want?" Mara asked. Halden was quiet for a moment. "I want this station to survive, but I also want to believe it stands for something more than transactions." Mara leaned forward. "Then stand for this." Halden exhaled slowly. "We are authorizing a temporary humanitarian zone at Dock 9, limited, supervised, but official. The family will be allowed to remain there while long-term solutions are discussed." Mara's heart lifted. "Thank you." "This is not a victory," Halden warned. "It is a pause." "I'll take it," Mara said. When she returned to Dock 9, Jace met her halfway. "Good news?" he asked. "Better than nothing," Mara said. "They can stay officially." Jace grinned. "I like officially." Inside the ship, the atmosphere felt lighter even beyond the clean air. The Keth family sensed the change, even if they did not fully understand it. Sen touched Mara's arm. "You look less heavy." Mara laughed softly. "I think I am." Talai approached Mara and held up a small object. It was a piece of flexible plating from the ship's wall, shaped carefully into a simple form. It looked like two figures standing side by side. The translator hummed. "For you," it said. Mara knelt and accepted it gently. "It's beautiful." Talai tilted their head. "It is us." "And you?" Mara felt her throat tighten. "I'll keep it." As the next station cycle began, something new happened. A small cargo drone arrived, not from the station, but from a visiting ship. It carried a crate marked with the symbol of a merchant guild. Inside were medical supplies, sealed and clean. A message followed. "For the family, no charge." Then another delivery arrived, and another, different species, different ships, small contributions, quiet gestures. The humans watched in surprise. "They're joining in," Nico said. Mara nodded. "They always were, they just needed a reason." Luro watched the flow of supplies, their eyes wide. "The galaxy is changing," they said. Mara smiled. "The galaxy is remembering." As the day went on, the bubble tent was slowly folded away. The ship's own systems, supported by the generator and stabilizer, now held steady on their own. The Keth family moved freely inside their home again. The children explored every corner, laughing softly, touching lights and panels like they were seeing them for the first time. Outside, humans and others sat together, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing a quiet pride. The station drone hovered nearby and spoke in a softer tone than it ever had before. "Status update. Life support stable. Humanitarian zone active." Jace raised his cup. "I'll drink to that." Mara sat near the hatch, watching the stars through the ship's front window. They felt closer now, not so cold and distant. Sen joined her. "In our language," Sen said, "there is a word. It means those who do not leave when the dark comes." Mara looked at them. "That's a good word." "We think," Sen said, "it means human." Mara laughed quietly. "We're not always that good." Sen shook their head. "Today you were." As the lights of Vila Junction glowed and the station continued its endless movement, something invisible but powerful settled into its walls. A memory. A story. A moment when a family was not left alone and a species chose to be more than what the rules required.